Welcome, deep divers, to another look into the sounds that really shaped music history. Today, we're exploring, well, more than just a piece of gear. It's about a sonic alchemist, really. An unassuming little box that just profoundly influenced generations of musicians. Get ready to discover a legend, our focus today, the venerable MXR Flanger. And this isn't just, a pedal. It's really a testament to how a pretty simple circuit, just a few knobs, could transform soundscapes and become, well, indispensable for some truly iconic artists, the ones you know and love. So, our mission for this deep dive is to really get its origins, figure out that unique sound it unleashed, trace its journey through time, and, grasp its lasting impact. We're going to pull back the curtain on the secrets behind that famous, unmistakable jet swoosh sound. You've definitely heard it countless times, maybe without even knowing what it was. We think you'll find the journey just as captivating as the sound itself. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Mid-1970s, before pedals like this existed, how tricky was it to get that flanging sound in a studio? I mean, I can only imagine the setup needed for something so dynamic.
Oh, it's quite a story, yeah. Before these little boxes changed everything, flanging was strictly a studio thing, super labor-intensive. Picture this. Engineers playing two identical tape recordings at the same time. And to get that whoosh, that phasey sound, they'd literally press a finger on the flange, the rim of one tape reel, just to slow it down slightly.
Wow. Physically touching the tape reel?
Exactly. That tiny manual change created the effect. It took skill, precision, and honestly, probably a lot of patience. Maybe some tape takes.
So yeah, a truly hands-on, almost like artisanal process. Bottling that kind of magic into a stomp box seems, well, almost impossible back then. When did things start to shift?
Precisely. And into that world of studio-only wizardry came MXR Innovations, really one of the most forward-thinking pedal companies of the 70s. They released their MXR Flanger in 1976. Now, it wasn't totally alone. The EHX Electric Mistress, another huge one, also came out that year, so 76 was like the year. The birth of compact stompbox flangers, bringing that sound right to the musician's feet.
And MXR didn't just, show up. They brought something special right away. They delivered a flanger, people, called warm, rich, and highly musical analog. So it wasn't just an option. It quickly became the standard for a lot of players, right?
Absolutely. It was about democratizing a sound, taking it from the pros with big studios
Yep.
and expensive engineers, and suddenly making it accessible to, well, any guitarist. It really fundamentally changed how rock, progressive music especially, could be played live.
That warm, rich, highly musical analog quality that's key to its legend. So how did they bottle that? What was the secret sauce inside? What was the engineering that let it capture that studio sound in a little pedal, getting that jet roar, that subtle shimmer?
The genius was really its core tech, an analog bucket brigade delay circuit, a BBD. Specifically, the MXR Flanger used a Redicon SAD 104 chip. Think of it like a tiny chain of buckets passing the audio signal along, creating a really short controlled delay.
A bucket brigade, like passing water buckets down a line.
Exactly that idea. That chip was crucial for those short time delays needed for flanging. It literally passed the audio signal down this bucket brigade of capacitors, delayed it just slightly, then mixed it back with the original signal. And the beauty of this analog approach, unlike later digital stuff, was its inherent warmth, those subtle imperfections. They weren't flaws, though. They gave it that natural musical quality.
Yeah.
Less sterile, more organic,
That bucket brigade analogy really clicks. Such a clever way to think about it. Okay, so that's the engine providing the delay. How do players actually control it? What are the knobs they're twisting to go from, say, subtle movement to that huge jet sound?
Right, that's where the four controls were brilliant. They gave players so much power. First, you've got the manual knob. This sets the sort of baseline delay time offset. Think of it like shifting where the center of the sweep happens. You could even use it to create these cool, static, filter-like tones. No sweep at all. Really versatile.
So you could freeze the sound at a certain point. That's powerful. Then, obviously, you need to control how much it moves, right? The intensity.
Exactly. Next is width. That controls the depth of the sweep. How big is that whoosh? From barely there to this deep, swirling sound. And then the big one for speed. Speed. That controls the LFO rate. Low-frequency oscillator. That's your engine speed. Slow, watery sounds. All the way up to those fast, famous jet plane or propeller effects.
And the last one really kicks it up a notch. Regeneration.
Yes, regen. That feeds some of the delayed signal back into itself, creates feedback, resonance. This is where you get those more metallic, almost vocal sounding, really resonant sweeps. It makes the effect much stronger, more aggressive if you want it. And what was really cool, that manual control. It set it apart from simpler flangers. Lots of others just swept back and forth. The MXR let you dial in exactly where you wanted that sweep centered.
Or just hold it steady like a filter. Added a whole other dimension.
Sounds like a really elegant system. Just incredible sonic depth from 4 knobs. But the story doesn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
This pedal evolved. Let's track its timeline, the different versions that came out over the years.
Absolutely. The original MXR Flanger, that ran from 76 to 84. Early ones had those larger boxes, the cool script logo. Later, they moved to the bolder block logo. Now, back then, these were pretty pricey, a real investment for a musician. But the sound, the build, they were considered among the absolute best. Top-tier stuff.
Okay, top tier from day one. But then, like a lot of classics, there was a gap. Mid-'80s.
Yeah, unfortunately, MXR Innovations had some struggles, like a lot of smaller companies then. They closed down in 1984, which meant the original flanger and their other great pedals stopped being made. For a while, you had to hunt down vintage ones, used market, prices climbing. You know the drill.
A familiar story in the gear world for sure. But thankfully, it wasn't the end. A reissue came along.
Exactly. Great news for guitarists. Jim Dunlop bought the MXR brand in the late 80s, breathed new life into it. That led to the Dunlop-era reissue in the 90s and 2000s. They were really careful to stick to the original specs, replicate the circuit, but, using the modern BBD chips that were available then, it meant a new generation could get that classic sound without the vintage hassle or cost.
And things kept evolving. Modern features started creeping in, things players expect now.
Precisely. The MXR M117R flanger came along. That brought in some key updates, like true bypass, huge for tone purists, your signal stays clean when the pedal's off, and AC adapter power, much easier for pedal boards than batteries or weird old power supplies, but crucially, it kept that classic 4-knob layout. And it's still seen today as one of the most authentic analog flangers out there. Shows how timeless the original design was.
And for today's players cramming pedals onto tiny boards, they even shrunk it down.
That's right. For convenience, but without losing the tone, they released a mini version in the 2010s. Compact format, same great sound, basically. Fits right into modern rigs. Amazing.
Okay, so we've got the tech, the evolution, the sound. But who actually used this thing to make those sounds we all know? It's one thing to talk circuits, another to hear its impact in the music. Let's connect it to some big names. How do they use it?
Well, top of the list, you absolutely have to start with Eddie Van Halen. He basically defined the MXR flanger sound for hard rock, used it all over the place, think Unchained, and the Cradle Will Rock. That massive jet swoosh sound became his signature almost. And what's cool is how he used it like percussively, built right into the riffs, not just an effect slapped on top. It was fundamental. So important that MXR later made the EVH 117 flanger his signature model. That says it all, really.
Yeah, he didn't just use it, he owned that sound. Then you've got someone totally different, like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Master of texture.
Yeah.
More atmospheric.
Completely different vibe, same pedal. Gilmour wove it into his big modulation soundscapes. Used it for those sweeping, sometimes melancholic textures Pink Floyd is famous for. For him, it wasn't about the jet engine roar. It was about lushness, movement, adding vastness to his tone.
And another prog rock giant, Alex Lifeson from Rush. Architect of complex sounds.
Yeah, Lifeson used it to craft those intricate, atmospheric soundscapes that were Rush's trademark. It was a key part of their complex sonic identity. Added depth and motion to his chords and solos. Helped build that sense of scale you hear in their epic tracks.
And maybe something a bit more subtle, but just as iconic. Andy Summers of The Police. His effects created those shimmering textures.
Absolutely. Summers showed his versatility beyond just power. He often blended it with chorus and delay, got those shimmering, almost watery atmospheres. That became a huge part of the Police's sound, that mix of reggae, punk, new wave. He used it as a layer, not always front and center, but vital to the overall sound fabric. It really shows the pedal's range, doesn't it? Such different players, different genres, all finding their unique voice with it.
So stepping back, what's the bigger picture here? The wider impact? What's the MXR flanger's place in music history, its lasting legacy?
Well, if you connect the dots, the MXR flanger is, without a doubt, one of the defining analog flangers ever. It wasn't just one option. For so many musicians, it became the sound of flanging. It really set the benchmark for what the effects should sound like. Many others tried to copy that character.
And it was huge for just Making sounds available,
Yeah.
right? Democratizing things. Taking this complex studio effect and putting it on stage in garages. It empowered musicians to experiment live, fundamentally changing rock and prog especially.
And that influence continues. I mean, even today, look at the boutique pedal market. So many modern flangers are still trying to capture that specific warmth, that character of the original MXR. It's proof they really nailed something special with that analog tone right from the start. People still chase that vintage warmth because it just sounds, well, more musical to many ears.
And the legacy is still alive and kicking, literally in production. That EVH 117 signature model we talked about, inspired by Eddie's use, it keeps that classic design going, introduces it to new players. So guitarists who maybe weren't even born when the original came out are still discovering and loving this sound. It's timeless. So there you have it, the MXR Flanger. What a journey! From a revolutionary studio effect shrunk into a pedal, that unique, warm, analog BBD sound, right through to its massive impact on musicians and the sound of rock itself.
It really does stand as one of the most important modulation pedals ever made. Simple as that. It's more than just a circuit, it's a benchmark. It bridges that vintage warmth people love with modern reliability. Still inspiring people today. And maybe for a final thought today, consider this. How often does a small piece of tech, like one guitar pedal, become more than just an effect? It becomes like an instrumental voice itself, shaping genres, pushing artists in new directions, defining the sound of music for decades. So next time you're listening, keep an ear out for those swirling, swooshing sounds, that jet swoosh, and think about the little box that started it all. What other small innovations are out there just waiting for their own deep dive?